Rivals have just accused Mercedes of deploying a secret cheat team to exploit a massive engine loophole, and Toto Wolff is absolutely furious about the leaked accusations. If these rumors about thermal expansion are true, Motorsport.com suggests the 2026 championship might already be decided. As reported by Speed Cafe, it is February 5th, 2026, and the Formula One paddock is currently in a state of absolute meltdown. We are just weeks away from the official start of the new era in Australia, but the war has already started behind closed doors. The stakes here are incredibly high. The 2026 regulations were supposed to be the great equalizer, featuring new engines, active aerodynamics, and a complete reset of the grid. The FIA mandated a specific compression ratio for the new sustainable engines to keep costs down and performance balanced. However, reports from Formula One coming out of the Barcelona shakedown suggest that Mercedes-AMG high-performance powertrains didn't just read the rulebook. They found a gray area so wide you could drive a truck through it. Competitors are panic-buying tickets to the FIA's office and sending what AutoWeek reports Toto Wolff describes as secret letters demanding an immediate ban. They claim Mercedes has engineered a power unit that is legal when it sits still in the garage, but transforms into a performance monster the second it hits track temperatures. The accusations are flying, the lawyers are involved, and for the first time in years, the Silver Arrows look confident. Maybe even too confident? The technical nightmare keeping Ferrari and Audi engineers awake at night revolves around one specific thing: the compression ratio. To keep the engines reliable and prevent an expensive spending war, the FIA dropped the maximum compression ratio from roughly 18 to 1, down to a strict 16 to 1. That sounds like a boring number, but in Formula One, that difference is everything, because a lower ratio means less explosive power from every drop of fuel. The real catch lies in the regulations stating that this ratio is measured statically at ambient temperature. That exact wording is where Mercedes apparently saw their opening. Sources suggest that the team at Brixworth developed a combustion chamber using specific alloys that expand considerably when they get hot. When the scrutineers check the engine in the cold garage, Autosport confirms it sits perfectly legal at 16 to 1. Out on the track, when the engine hits 100 degrees, those metal parts expand so the volume changes, and the compression ratio allegedly spikes back up to 18 to 1. It is a brilliant, shape-shifting engine that effectively bypasses the performance cap. A tiny change in compression ratio matters immensely. Estimates from rival engineers suggest this thermal trick is worth between 10 to 15 horsepower. In the past, that might have been negligible, but in 2026, with active aero removing drag on the straights, 15 horsepower is massive. It translates to roughly 3 to 4 tenths of a second per lap, which becomes a 20-second gap over a race distance. That is not just a win, that is domination. It is the difference between fighting for a podium and cruising to victory with your arm out the window. Since this advantage comes from the internal combustion side, it allows Mercedes to save their battery energy for the new overtake mode, giving them a double advantage. Other teams are burning through their electrical deployment just to keep up, yet George Russell and Kimi Antonelli could essentially drive into the distance. This is exactly the kind of specific technical innovation that Mercedes became famous for in 2014, and the rest of the grid is terrified that history is repeating itself right before their eyes. The drama kicked into high gear this week when details about the rivals' panic started leaking. Ferrari, Audi, and Honda haven't just been complaining to the media. They have been bombarding the FIA with what are being called secret letters. These documents reportedly demand a clarification of the rules that would close this thermal expansion loophole immediately. They want the FIA to measure the compression ratio at operating temperature, rather than when the car is cold. This is a classic F1 political move, where teams can't prove Mercedes is doing it without tearing the engine apart, so they try to change the testing procedure to catch them out. It is a strategic game, but the target in this scenario is a 1,000-horsepower machine that might be illegal. The paranoia is so high that some teams are even accusing Red Bull of doing the exact same thing, creating a weird alliance where the two biggest rivals might be the only ones with the cheat engine? It is absolute chaos in the paddock, and the season hasn't even started yet. If you are enjoying this detailed look into the tech wars of 2026, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are tracking every development of this new season, so you don't miss what happens next. We will now examine how Toto Wolff is handling the heat. Toto Wolff is not taking these accusations lying down. He went on the offensive earlier this week, blasting the other team principals for their obsessive behavior. According to The Independent, he told reporters that he doesn't understand why some teams concentrate more on others instead of fixing their own slow cars. His argument is simple. The regulations were clear, Mercedes followed them to the letter, and now rivals are crying because they missed the opportunity. He told the teams to get your shit together, and Racer reports he insisted that communication with the FIA has been transparent all along. When asked directly about the expansion loophole, he didn't deny it exists, but instead framed it as elite engineering. He accused his rivals of having missed a trick. This is the confident, aggressive Toto we saw back in the dominant years. He isn't acting like a man who is worried about a ban. He's acting like a man who knows he has an ace up his sleeve and dares anyone to try and take it away. It is a bold strategy, but if the FIA sides with the complaints, that confidence could evaporate overnight. A major twist makes this story even crazier. Reports indicate that Red Bull Powertrain's Ford might be sitting in the exact same boat as Mercedes. Christian Horner was asked about the cheating claims, and his response was surprisingly mild. Usually, Horner is the first to scream about Mercedes bending the rules, but this time he said that pushing boundaries is what F1 is about. That is code for "we are doing it too." If both Mercedes and Red Bull have exploited this thermal loophole, it leaves Ferrari, Audi, and Honda in a desperate position. The FIA can't easily ban the engines of half the grid without ruining the championship before the first race, which puts the governing body in a terrible bind. They must decide whether to disqualify the two biggest teams for being too clever or let it slide and watch the others suffer. It seems likely that Mercedes and Red Bull have inadvertently formed a mutually assured destruction pact. If one goes down, they both go down, so they are keeping quiet about each other's tech, while the rest of the grid screams for justice. To understand how Mercedes got here, you have to look at the internal culture shift Wolff described recently. He admitted that, while the factory was struggling with the erratic cars of the last few years, they separated the team. A specific group, which he called his Navy SEAL team, was deployed to salvage the 2025 season, while the vast majority of the engineering firepower was moved exclusively to this 2026 project. They have been working on this engine in the dark for over 2 years. That long lead time is exactly how you find loopholes like the thermal expansion trick. Ferrari was fighting for scraps last year, as Mercedes engineers were likely testing metal alloys and thermal properties in Brixworth, looking for this exact edge. The cheat team isn't some rogue group. It is the core of Mercedes returning to what they do best, which is outthinking the rulebook. Wolff's Navy SEAL comment wasn't just a throwaway line, it was a warning. It signaled that the team had returned to a war footing, operating with a level of focus and aggression we haven't seen since Lewis Hamilton's prime. The final clue that this mechanical advantage is real comes from the drivers themselves. George Russell has been walking around the paddock with a suspicious amount of swagger this week. After the shakedown, he told the media that the car's numbers match the simulator perfectly, which is something Mercedes hasn't been able to say for 4 years. He refused to downplay their chances, saying he is ready to fight for the title. Even the sophomore, Kimi Antonelli, looks unshakable. Usually, a team trying to hide a controversy will be humble and play down expectations, but Mercedes is doing the opposite. They are hyping the car and talking about 400 km/h speeds on the straights. This body language implies that they know they have a mechanical advantage. They aren't worried about finding tenths of a second in the setup, because reports suggest they already have 3/10 in their pocket before the engine even fires up. It is the confidence of a team that knows the competition is tilted in their favor. The focus now shifts to the FIA's next move. The governing body is under immense pressure to issue a technical directive before the first race in Australia. If they close the loophole, Mercedes and Red Bull might have to detune their engines to stay legal, which would instantly wipe out their advantage and potentially cause reliability issues as they try to run the engines cooler. If the FIA rules that the text of the regulation stands as written, checking the ratio only when cold, then we are looking at a 2-tier championship. Mercedes and Red Bull will be in a league of their own, and everyone else will be fighting for 5th place. This controversy proves that no matter how much the FIA tries to simplify the sport with sustainable fuels and standard parts, the engineers will always find a way to complicate it. We are witnessing the start of a new political war that could define the entire 2026 season. The cars haven't even raced in anger yet, but the result might already be decided in a meeting room in Paris. The 2026 ERA promised closer racing, but it might have just delivered another era of engineering dominance. Whether this thermal trick gets banned or becomes the new standard, it is clear that the gloves are off. Thanks for watching, and if you want to stay ahead of the F1 news cycle, hit that subscribe button right now.